Imagine this. You're watching season 2 of Arcane on Netflix. At this point in the series, you've already dealt with a season's worth of Jinx being built up as an irredeemable villain. She's killed multiple innocent people, and through her atrocities, garnered hatred from the entirety of the main cast, the ones who are still alive at least. And in season 2, Jinx, knowing of her reputation and hating herself more than any other character possibly could, decides to change this. Jinx slowly but surely separates herself from her past wrongdoings, and as the plot of season 2 drags on, you can't help but feel for her, even if you can't really put yourself in her shoes. But why is this? How does the narrative of Arcane make Jinx the good guy again after her rage-induced massacre of Piltover's elite? Well, all of this can be attributed to a good old-fashioned redemption arc. Season 2 of Arcane goes out of its way to give Jinx the opportunity to be a good person on multiple occasions, and even if many of the characters still don't forgive her by the end, her actions alone serve to build a case for her desire to be good, her desire to change. But as a writer, it's not as easy as it may look. Audiences can be very opinionated, especially when it comes down to the characters you build in your fictional worlds. Jinx is an outlier, a rare case of a redemption arc done right. But even knowing this, it can be hard to pinpoint exactly why it's done right. So let's talk about it. In this video, I'll be giving you a brief introduction to the world of redemption arcs, the depth such an undertaking demands, and how it can change your narrative for the better. Many factors such as change, forgiveness, and sacrifice can make or break your redemption arcs. But what role does any of this really play in redeeming your worst villain? Well, to answer that question, we're going to need a more rigid definition of redemption to begin with. Like most things we discuss on the channel, the definition of redemption changes and shifts depending on who you ask, which can make it hard to understand what you need to focus on when you're writing your redemption arcs. In my opinion, the most accurate definition of redemption is when a character earns the respect of the audience or the rest of the cast by taking a positive action that either matches or eclipses their wrongdoings. In other words, it's when we forgive a character after they've righted their wrongs. But what makes the concept of redemption so nuanced is the separation between redemption and forgiveness. Sword Art Online is a series I don't have a very high opinion of, but in spite of that, it's been one of my biggest inspirations as far as being a writer. Before I diversified my tastes and grew as a creative, SAO was the only foundation I had as far as writing an interesting story, with an interesting world and interesting characters. And no character in Sword Art Online was more interesting to me than the man himself, the creator of Sword Art Online, Akihiko Kayaba. The main villain of the Aincrad arc and cyber fucking Jesus after the fact, serves as an amazing example of what not to do when redeeming your characters. A forgiveness without redemption. To keep it short and sweet, Kayaba never really answers for his crimes, the intentional trapping and killing of thousands of people, including himself, in a death game of his own creation. Hell, even in death he's not punished, as he continues to live on in his own personalized digital world, showing up whenever Kirito is about to lose to give him a kiss on the lips and a pat on the back. There is no redemption here, let alone a redemption arc, and it's because SAO conflates redemption with forgiveness alone. Kayaba never takes any actions to suggest that he's remorseful. He never apologizes for what he's done, and if anything, he still firmly believes that Sword Art Online was a net positive for society. This redemption arc is weak because there is no change and no sacrifice, only forgiveness. And without the first two, forgiveness has no place in your narrative. I'd even go so far as to say that a redemption arc should have as little forgiveness as possible until the very end. A character should be redeemed before they're forgiven, not the other way around. But that begs the question, how can you have redemption without forgiveness? Going back to Arcane, Jinx's redemption arc is strong, and it's strong for a variety of reasons. But one of the main reasons is the struggle that the other characters must go through before forgiving her fully, having to go through a forgiveness arc of sorts, before opening their hearts to good old powder again. This dynamic immediately creates an environment where Jinx herself has to question if she's even worthy of forgiveness in the first place, which leads to the self-reflection that gives her the desire to redeem herself. Her redemption arc is better than Kaya's Kayaba's in the sense that there is a sense of accountability, and the other characters don't immediately forgive her out of the kindness of their hearts. The plot of Arcane is a spider web with a lot of moving and interconnected parts, but the highlight of Season 2 for me will always be watching Jinx's personal journey as she comes to terms with her own existence and the mistakes she made in the past, as well as seeing how her actions inspire, hurt, and endlessly confuse the people surrounding her, making her redemption at the end feel earned and ingraining her as something of a role model in the hearts of the audience. Though it's obviously not because of her actions, but because of her desire to change as a person, and how that shifts the nature of the plot as a whole. However, in spite of all of this, it's easy to redeem a character like Jinx. Even among her ever-stacking body count, there's a pre-existing sympathy for the character, primarily due to knowing her past and understanding her disposition. Hardly the worst villain in the series. So what about a character that does meet that criteria? A character that's irredeemable, and a character that the audience loves to hate. How could you possibly redeem someone like that, even in a fictional context? As a writer, the one who clicked on this video hoping to learn something fresh, something new, how could you possibly redeem your worst villain? As many horror fans know, children are sacred creatures who are never to be hurt, killed, or otherwise. But The Promised Neverland is a series that completely goes against this ideology. In the first episode alone, there are multiple shots of dead children, as well as the implication of filicide, if I use that word correctly. And at the center of everything is the irredeemable genius of a villain, Isabella, otherwise known as Mother, the foster mother of the children and the fiercely intelligent main antagonist of the first season, the only season, which, for the sake of avoiding spoilers, wink wink nudge nudge, ends with her allowing the Gracefield kids to escape, sacrificing herself. What's a better way to make up for any kind of atrocity than by literally killing yourself, right? I'm being completely serious, by the way. Self-sacrifice is the most popular form of redeeming a truly despicable character. Greed, Akechi, and Vandal Savage. Truth be told, when you have a villain that's taken so many innocent lives, it can be hard to reasonably redeem them without looking back at their past actions and feeling somewhat awkward. Though Kayaba is once again an example of how not to do this, as dying simply made his life better, ironically enough. A villain sacrificing themselves for the greater good should still come with a sense of context. That way, the sacrifice doesn't feel out of character. Roy Batty from Blade Runner, while not a sacrifice inherently, is still an example of a villain being humanized before their demise, their last call to the rest of the world before they die, making their final message stick with the audience that much more, and making their death that much more memorable. Truly redeeming villains can be a tough undertaking, because humans are emotional creatures. It's not often that we change our perspectives on something that pissed us off in the past, especially if it's a character we've been rooting against over the course of an entire narrative. This can result in the aforementioned issue of people confusing forgiveness with redemption, or simply not properly redeeming their villains at all. There is no connection, no internal consistency that could lead the audience to believe that your villain has improved in the slightest, short of the main characters patting them on the back and saying, "We're friends now," of course. A good redemption is a practice in self-reflection, in the effort that it takes to forgive another person, to forgive yourself. But you can't do that if you ignore all of the wrong they've done for the sake of a happy ending. And that's exactly it. The key to redeeming a villain isn't forgetting everything they've done wrong, but embracing it and showing how they've grown. My name is John Sage, and thanks for watching. Hello, it is Editing Room John once more, back again with yet another video. And as always, I'm here to awkwardly thank you for watching this video all the way through the end. I really can't do any of this without you, and so your presence is greatly appreciated. This video took quite a while to get out, not necessarily because it took a lot of effort to make on my part, more so than real life is real life, and from time to time I have to step away from the computer, sadly. I hope, regardless of all of that, you have enjoyed the video. I still put a lot of work into this. I put a lot of thought into writing the scripts, and overall, I feel like I have been showing some improvement in the numbers of my content recently. Not from a direct viewpoint standpoint, but like, you get the idea. But I'm not gonna bore you with the semantics of all of that. I would like to thank you guys for watching once more. My name is John Sage, and I hope you have an amazing rest of your day.